Alright, new year, new demo. This is the audio system that I've been working on for about 3 weeks now, which contains the event audio, area audio, and the background audio. I'll go over how they work and how to set them up for future reference in case anyone wants to take notes, which I'm sure you're all eager to do. Right. So, the audio in this world isn't mine. Slight disclaimer. Area draw line 1. Right. So, let's start with the event audio, which is the easiest of them all. So the event audio is quite literally just when a event happens, play an audio. So you request an audio to be played, and then it plays that audio either locally or spatially. Spatially means that it has a reference point, and locally means that it plays in your ears, essentially, which is what the current background music is playing like. And yeah, it really is just as simple as an audio being played when a certain action, or when it's being requested, essentially. So that's very simple. This doesn't have to occur through triggers, as here. These usually are done by code, so none of the mappers really need to understand these unless you want to place a one-time trigger where if you step into a room it plays like a one-off sound, but in other cases that isn't really needed. Right, now area audio is a little bit more complex and took me probably the longest. The concept is simple. You have a reference point, being a audio space in, for example, and this audio space is a point in space which can be controlled by either radius and line of sight, or trigger, or both, or either. And both of these are through radius and line of sight, but trigger works practically the same, where you have a trigger where if the player touches it, like over there, it requests that that audio space is selected or made valid, so to speak. Right now, the audio space that is active is this one, which has a radius that encapsulates the entire area here. So this is considered the default one, even though I can leave the... So right now it's saying red because there's a collision here, there's a wall. And so it's no longer, the player is no longer in the line of sight. And if I go further, then eventually I leave the radius. So now I'm no longer in the radius of the audio space, but it keeps playing because an audio space is active until it gets taken over by another audio space, or it gets turned off. So until another audio space gets higher in priority than the one that's currently playing, this one will keep playing. So you can see that nicely here. There's this audio space here has a radius of like a meter by a meter, and then if I touch this one, then you'll hear the audio fade out and then new one fade in. In this one, it's like a hum. There's like a background drone going on, as well as random audio cues, which are firework sounds, which you can hear. They spawn randomly around the player. Like the positions aren't set, the order isn't set. It's completely random, and I'll show in a bit how that's done. But yes, right now there's two competing audio spaces. So you have this audio space and the audio space over there. And this one is winning because it's closer. I can't go in the middle between these two, because if I go further, then I'll get outside of the radius of this one. And then the other audio space will take priority again. But it really is just as simple as comparing the priority between two audio spaces and picking whichever one wins, and then just fading the other one out and fading the winning one in. It's the same with this one. This one is like a bit moodier example where, you know, you walk into a building and you have a background drone and some random noises that, like, I don't know. This is taken from a space, or the audio here is taken from a space-themed game, so it sounds a lot more mechanic and moody, but it's just an example to show how it would work, where walking into buildings or out of buildings, that there's there's points in transition. So the audio space here is set up right there. I can, even though I'm in line of sight of the other one, this one again wins in terms of priority because it's closer. And the radius is only about this building, so it stays winning. Technically, I can run around and then touch the wall back here, and it should still... No? Okay. But yeah, you can see there's there's an audio source here, which plays the spatialized background hum, and then there's random audio cues around the player happening at like a 1 or 2 second delay. It's random. Yeah, so that's audio spaces. And then if I go outside, I go out of the radius of this audio space again, and then the main audio space will fade in. I can also disable the debug draw toggle. So you can't see any of these objects, and it'll still, you know. So you have the drone and the audio, and you don't see any of this, but you know, this is for, I don't know, background audio or something. And then walking in here, wait until it's faded in, and then we walk in, and, you know, we'd be entering like a building or something, and then I don't know, like an audio track of people talking, or like torches burning, whatever. Because most of the stuff is localized to a position, you could have multiple rules for multiple points. So there would be like a point for a torch, and then there would be a position there, and then that's where you could play certain audios. It's very, very expandable and customizable, which is what's nice about the system. But yeah, these are both with radiuses, but the trigger one is essentially just one trigger that's responsible for saying, I want to fade right now, can I please? And then the system decides based on that. Right, and then the background audio for this, I'm going to actually have to change the volume of the music. So, music 1. Then we fade in. And we fade out again, and this should now be quiet. Yeah, okay. So, background audio, also very, very nice. Taken reference from some Unity thing. R debug draw toggle, which should show this. And then yeah, so the idea here is essentially that there exists a spline in the world. Let me just toggle this one off. SND area draw line 0. There you go. So there exists a spline in the world, and an audio source is animated alongside the spline to simulate a volumetric sound. So this essentially lies to the player, and the player feels like there's a space of audio, nudge nudge wink wink, where audio or sound is coming from. It teleports like in periods right now, like that you can see the like speech bubble which represents the audio source. It teleports in certain distance, or like once every 2.5 seconds it was, because this audio space or this source is considered or inactive because the player isn't close enough. This is basically to save on performance, because trying to calculate the correct position between like on a spline is very resource intensive. So this only happens like once every 2.5 seconds per audio source, or per background audio source, to save on resources. And if the player is far enough out, then it won't do it at all. So unless the player is close, it doesn't waste any resources. Right, so then if you go closer, it actually considers it as active and starts animating smoothly along the spine. And then as we get closer, you can hear some noise. I can turn this up as well. This sound is, it's just a snare sample that I fetched from a game. And as you can hear, it's very, I mean, it works. It gets the closest position relative to the player, and works pretty nice. The player can also stand on it, but the player should never be inside, because then it can jump positions, and depending on how far these 2 points are away, the player just won't hear anything. So yeah, either the player should never be able to transition from inside to outside, otherwise it'll break. Like if the player should always be on the outside. Sorry. But yeah, can also display the S&D background draw spline 1. Then I can actually draw the spline that it animates on. This is just a simple line renderer, but the concept is the same. And it's very nicely marked with this icon that I drew. I know it looks marvelous, but it gets the point across. And yeah, these 3 systems essentially will carry the entire project, or the entire throughout the entire project, in terms of audio. So yeah, how do you set any of these things up? It is super simple. Here, let's start with the area audio. Starting off with this audio space, we just have an object called AS for audio space, nothing. The name doesn't really mean anything. The ID, the ID is just for keeping track of all of them. Priority is in case there are actually stalemates, the priority is used to make like a final decision. And then the activation type, we have line of sight and radius, triggered, either or both. These are all functional, but I haven't set up anything besides line of sight and radius, because triggered and either or both. I haven't really found I wasn't really able to make an example with them. Radius, then the actual radius, which is displayed by this sphere. You can also draw a blue sphere on top of it, in case the sphere collider isn't enabled. Then positions. Positions is what lets you spatialize things, except for having something random. So let's go over here. Select this audio space. Oh, this one also doesn't have anything spatialized. Here. So on this one, you have 3 positions. You have this position down here, and then a 3rd position right about here. And these positions by themselves don't really mean anything. They're really just that, positions. They let the audio space have references to points in space, which are then used by the rules to decide what happens where. Right, then rules, you have these are automatically filled in, you don't have to touch these ever. crossfade decides how long it takes for this, or from the current audio space to fade to the next one, which would then be this one. This automatically assigns the correct fade time to the previous audio space, so it always fades perfectly. This one, don't really have to touch that. This one just, it's a visual to know whether this is a valid audio space. But then the actual interesting part is the rules. Now, the rules actually drive the audio. Here in this rule we have, which is called the ambience, we have a audio space rule, which contains a sound array. You don't have to touch this. Time, position, pitch, volume multiplier, and hear distance. Now, just with these couple of things, you can do pretty much anything. Something as basic as a looping audio. Oh, right, of course, the rule type too. Something as basic as a looping background audio that just exists on one of these positions. All you have to do is select looping, pick or create a new entry, and name it after your sound, or sound type, and then the sound name. Now, where do you get this? Well, I programmed an entire audio database in Unity. It's pretty simple to add stuff. You just drag and drop it in here, and then you get a pop-up that lets you configure it. But if you want an audio space, you can just find it either by name, by key, when you added it, by a tag, if it has tags, and then you can expand it, and then here's all of the data. You can click it to highlight it. You can select the channel, so whether it's sound effects, music, voices, ambience. Then you have a name and the key. Now the key is what actually lets you find it in game. So you just type in ambience, so that the channel in all caps, / and then the key, and so the game knows where to find it. You can also preview it, so you listen to it. Description, tags, blah blah blah. This is all for internal stuff. Right, and that's how you pick a sound effect. Now, what if you want multiple sound effects? You can just add as many as you want, and whenever this rule has its logic run, which depends on what rule type it is, whenever it needs a sound, it picks a random one of these. So if you want to have, for example, 3, but lean more towards 1, then you just have, that doesn't exist. But if, let's say this one did exist, then you'd have a 33% chance for 2 to play and a 66% chance for 1 to play, just out of example. So it's always equally split. Then this is for looping. So looping is essentially just you play a sound effect, and then you wait until it's finished, and then it plays the sound effect again. That's it. Time is ignored for looping. Position. Now this is where this array comes in, the positions array. Depending on the element number here, that depends what position this sound gets played at. This also decides whether this is a localized audio or a spatialized audio. So if you put, for example, 0 in here, then it gets position 0, which is 0, position, which is this. So the ambient noise would always play on this position. It's a lot more complicated. I'm gonna write an actual documentation for this, but this is basically all you really need for anything and everything. You can have position random, which is what then uses these randomized position spaces. Here, let me find an icon for them. So these positions always move around the player, and then if you enter random into the rule set, then one of these randomly gets used as the position for any sound. If you put 2 numbers like this, like 1, 3, then if the time, or what this basically means is every random number between 1 and 3 seconds, one of these random audios will get played at a random position around the player. You can also technically do this, and then it's either 1 second, 3 seconds, or 6 seconds. So the sky is the limit, quite literally. Pitch, same thing. You can either do like 0.9 and then 0. Or 1.1, and then it'll pick a random number between those two. Or you can even, or you can do 0.7, 0.9, and 1 in case you don't want any decimals, whatever. And then volume multiplier, same thing here. Here distance is only relevant if you have a spatialized position. Spatialized, you can have non-spatialized positions if you just do -1. Then it will always play at the player's head. And then if it is spatialized, you can set from how far you can hear the audio source. Which if it's random, it'll always be the same distance, so doesn't really matter, so I put it as near, but theoretically, you can impact the volume by putting it further away. That's it for area audio. Background audio is a similar thing. You have a spline. A spline is a line with points in the middle where you can configure how they look. So I can click on this, and I can move this point, for example, over here, and then validate. And then if I were to click play, it would use that point as the new line of references. So you can see here it animates along this path that I just configured. It really isn't that complicated. And this is, as for the audio part itself, that is just a audio source where you have to ahead of time configure the audio file. So this isn't as expandable as the area audio system where you have like your key and whatnot. You need the actual reference to the audio file to put in here and have it looping whenever it's so it will be looping. You have once it's set, it's set. You can't change how it sounds later on. If that is like an issue, I can look into some interface for that, but still, this is fine as is. This is only really used for like putting this around a lake or putting this around a body of water. So, it's not really gonna change a lot anyways. So as you can see, it animates nicely around, and it really is that simple. The spline itself, you have your positions. If you need more positions, like if you need a new position in between these two, you can just go ahead and... Oh yeah, another limitation is because of how the math is done, it always has to be linear. It cannot be a Bezier curve. The curve has to always be linear. Behavior, revalidate. Well, you shouldn't really modify this at runtime, so obviously it doesn't really work right now, but yeah, you get the point. Boop, boop. Perfect. Alright, that's the audio system. None of you are probably watching right now, I swear. This is a 24 minutes video. There's like maybe one guy or one of you watching right now. Whoever, if you are that one guy, reach out to me. I genuinely want to know. I'm curious. I really want to know which one of you actually watches till the end of these. Because I don't think it's that many. I mean, as per the YouTube statistics, which I do look at, like one person, literally one person watches more than 2 minutes or something. So yeah, do tell me. I am curious. And for the rest who are definitely not watching, I would like some feedback. Yeah, that would be very appreciated. I've spent 3 weeks on this. This is, I mean, I can count on one hand how many worlds have an audio system like this. None. So you know, it would be really nice if any feedback, positive or negative, if you have things, suggestions, whatever, let me know. And if the suggestion is already implemented, but I just haven't talked about it, then I'll say that. But yeah.